You know, there's an old ploy within the judiciary. It works for both the defense and the prosecution, and that's this. When you don't have an expert witness in an area, create one, manufacture one. Just simply call someone an expert. Hi, it's Pastor Marty from the Afternoon Drive. Well, one of the most unqualified political commentators and journalists out there, Chris Cuomo. Now, wait a minute. Pastor Marty, that's Chris Cuomo. He comes from a dynasty of political family in this country, the Cuomos. Yes, I know. I had the unfortunate experience in my life of being a citizen of the People's Republic of New York when his father, Mario, had the oversight of the state. And of course, now his brother has oversight of the state. And way to go, New York. You know, first state to actually vote to approve infanticide, genocide, the post-abortion of infants as some type of trumped-up lie of a championship of women's rights to thunderous applause in a democratic legislative body, all under the cover of darkness, because they didn't want to do it during the day, because, well, here I go, I'm going to invoke a little Bible here. People of evil people love the cover of darkness. They don't want their deeds exposed to sunlight. So, yeah, Chris Cuomo comes from a political dynasty family, but there's nothing good about that dynasty. There's no real heritage of doing the right thing within that so-called political dynasty. Let's not forget that these so-called libs that call themselves the Cuomos, at one time Mario, running for mayor of New York City against Ed Koch, his son, Andrew at the time, one of his chief campaign advisors, coined the phrase, vote for Cuomo, not the homo. Real progressive there, real inclusion. And do the Cuomos ever get called out on stuff like that? No. But Chris Cuomo, the most singularly unqualified individual to be on a major network, well, CNN's not major. They have ratings because they're on in airport lounge areas and gates. In fact, I was doing some traveling this past weekend, and in Memphis, out on the main screen, it's not CNN, I don't know what they had on, there was a monitor, a TV monitor near one of the restrooms. CNN was on there, which that's its proper environment. And even in the restroom, we didn't have to endure CNN at the Memphis airport. We got treated to Sirius XM radio and the BB King channel. That all said, Don Lemonhead over on CNN. Now I have to. He and Chris Cuomo, they battle it out for the single biggest dillweed to be given primetime coverage on a so-called cable information station, and Cuomo had Bill Maher on. And again, here we go. We're gonna manufacture and create now an expert. Let's bring Bill Maher, failed stand-up comedian, has been stand-up comedian, who, you know, got his chops wet for politics doing a show called Politically Correct on ABC. It got canceled. He got kicked over to HBO as the court jester there to entertain all the libs and suits that run HBO. And his favorite thing is to bring that one moderate Republican on that gets, you know, circled by the shark tank of the rest of the panelists in there. And they don't really know how to stand up for themselves, and they sit there and all that nervous laughter as they're being ridiculed by Maher, his audience, and the rest of the guests. So that's how Maher does his whole schoolyard bullying and fighting. You know, get three of his friends to hold the scrawny kid that he wants to kick sand in his face and beat him up, And because Maher's not man enough to do it himself. So same thing, he brings on, usually weak Republicans. Occasionally here and there, somebody with some real grit and character gets on there, and Maher doesn't know what to do. In fact, you'll even watch Maher back down and tone it down. Because the only way you deal with a bully like Bill Maher, a know-nothing blowhard, is you stand up to him and you give it right back, which is the real reason that he hates Donald Trump. I said this yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. Having Donald Trump as president is like having John Wayne in the Oval Office. What these guys really, really hate about Donald Trump is he says what he's going to do, and then he does exactly what he said he was going to do. He doesn't roll over for China. He doesn't roll over for the media. He doesn't treat them with this homage as if they're deity. He calls them out for their lies. He calls them out for their fakeness. And when people complain, he just doubles down and puts the beat down on them. That all said. Bill Maher finally conceded some ground, though, with Chris Cuomo, that the reason Hillary lost the election was not because of Russian spying, Russian collusion, and the Russians throwing the election for Donald Trump. It was her own ineptness and her obstruction.
I mean, look at how much they overcovered Hillary's emails in 2016 and what effect did that have on the election. Now, there's a lot of reasons why the Democrats lost, and many of them were Hillary was a terrible candidate. That's absolutely true.
She didn't help the situation with the emails in terms of how she handled it with her answers and her actions.
Absolutely. No, right. And she committed obstruction of justice. Now, Trump did, I think, in much worse fashion, but, smashing up your your phones and your hard drives.
They had a story about it, but it was a bad option.
Yeah, okay. But they overcovered it.
So let me get this straight. Donald Trump was cleared of collusion, cleared of obstruction, but his obstruction was far worse than Hillary Rodham Clinton's. Now, see, Bill, he just can't help himself. He wants to act like he's being tough on Democrats, and he can espouse the truth and stand for the truth. Bill, you should take a lesson from someone who would share some of your political ideology. You need to take a lesson from Jimmy Dore. Now, I don't agree with all of Jimmy Dore's politics, his ideology, but Jimmy Dore is far more honest than Bill Maher. Far more. He's a man of his ideals, though I think some of those ideals are wrong and misguided. He sticks to them, and I respect anyone, and I respect Jimmy Dore. I respect anyone that has a set of convictions and ideals that they don't waver from. Bill Maher was making the case to Chris Cuomo, look, we understand that there's some really flawed people running on the Democratic side right now, but right now we got to get any Democrat we can. I can tell you that is a failed strategy. I can tell you that is the real reason Donald Trump got elected. But I'll get to that in a few moments. Bill Maher saying that Hillary's obstruction of justice was not as bad as Trump's. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He acknowledges, yeah, she smashed phones and destroyed hard drives and wouldn't let the DOJ or the FBI or anyone actually have access. And this is far worse, though, that what Trump did was far worse because, he sides with Putin over our own intelligence agencies. I would side with Putin over our own intelligence agencies. Look what James Comey and John Brennan and James the Clapper turned our intelligence agencies into. They turn all their attention on spying on Americans, looking at what Americans are up to. This was all proven by Edward Snowden. They're really not out looking for terrorists. They're really not out trying to stop terrorism. They're trying to stop those of us who are not politically correct, who are true patriots, lovers of the Constitution, lovers of freedom, are not part of the establishment. You know why? Because we can't be manipulated and controlled, and that makes us dangerous. And that's who James Comey and John Brennan and James the Clapper were interested in spying on, and Donald Trump fell into that, not because he was an evil guy and going rogue with Russia. He fell into that because he wasn't part of the system. He wasn't part of the oligarch. He wasn't part of the ruling elite. And how dare this no-good think that he can circumvent the real control of America back to the people. And thus, they spied on him. And yet he's supposed to agree with them and their intelligence gathering over another entity, because after all, our own intelligence agencies, they have the president's best interest at heart, right? Not in this climate they don't. Not in this climate they don't. But Hillary Rodham Clinton, did she do what she did with her emails and her server to protect the American people, to champion and defend the American people? No. She did it to keep herself out of jail. She did it so that she could have backdoor deals with Russia, funneling millions of dollars into the Clinton Foundation. Her husband getting $500,000 per speech given in Moscow. And as she served as our Secretary of State, favors being done for Russian entities in exchange for hundreds of millions of dollars being funneled into her little slush fund, her little ATM machine called the Clinton Foundation, and Russia ending up with 20% of our uranium. There's your collusion. And all what she did to keep us from finding any of that out, there's your obstruction of justice. Go after that, Bill Maher. And to say that what Trump did is far worse, Trump didn't do anything except speak his mind and tweet, and he's rude and he's mean. Oh, Bill, you mean he's not politically correct?
And I think a lot of this far-left political correctness is a cancer on progressivism. I think when you talk to Trump supporters, they are not blind to his myriad flaws. But one thing they always say is he's not politically correct. I don't think you can overestimate how much people have been choking on political correctness and hate it. There were 2 studies about this recently. It was in the New York Times front page story a few months ago. It was also in the Atlantic about a year ago. The vast majority of liberals in this country hate it. They think political correctness has gone way too far. No one likes to be living on eggshells.
Now, Bill Maher's right, and he's wrong here. Let me explain. He is right. The American people, and I think it is on the left and the right, I think it's the American people in general, we're sick and tired of political correctness. Now, you can't say anything. What my son called me the other day. I love my son. He and I differ in politics. And I don't know how much we really differ, or he just loves to play devil's advocate and sometimes irritate his old man. Young men tend to do that sometimes, challenge dad. But my son is into one of the DNC candidates right now. I refer to him as Yin Yang, the guy that thinks that every American ought to be given $1,000 a month as a basic human income. And, they misconstrue the facts that, well, this is what Nixon wanted to do. Wrong. Do a little homework on that. And maybe I'll have to expose that myth in an up-and-coming video. That said, as I said, my son will call me from time to time, and we'll go back and forth a little bit in the area of politics. But Yin Yang isn't going to be part of the Democratic process because he's not polling high enough to make the debate stage. And but he's got more grassroots donors than anybody. Really? Did he give all those people $1,000 to give back to him? Is that how his old plan's going to work? Go away. Irrelevant. But look at how many of these guys running on the Democratic side. It is just one cliche and political correctness on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And the American people are sick of it. Now, Bill Maher is right about that. What he's wrong about is it's not the only reason we voted for Trump was because he's political correct. We voted against the establishment. And this is what I was alluding to earlier. Because right now, Bill Maher is all about, look, I'm We got to have a Democrat. We got to have a Democrat. And I don't care if he's not my kind of Democrat. We got to have a Democrat. Let me tell you, Republicans bought into that. I held my nose and voted for Mitt Romney. I didn't want to vote for Mitt Romney. I want to vote for John McCain. But we had this idea that any Republican was better than the best Democrat. And no, I wouldn't get everything I wanted with John McCain. No, I wouldn't get everything I wanted with Mitt Romney. Well, it was better than Barack Obama. Donald Trump came along, and we said, now here's a guy like Jesus with the money changers in the temple. He's going to grab the tables, flip them upside down, wreak havoc and chaos to the political system, restoring power back to we the people. That's why we voted for Donald Trump. And don't think that some of you are progressive libloons like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that she's that type of maverick. Did you see that right now she wants the representatives in Congress to get a pay raise? Really? I thought she was all about shared equality and shared income and shared everything. She hasn't even been there a year yet, and she wants a raise. See how out of touch they are with real people? She wants to be part of the system, part of the oligarch. Sorry for those of you that thought AOC was the new groundbreaking, she's it, man. She is socialism ideal. Well, she is in the sense that she wants the ruling class well taken care of. And that is fascism, socialism, Nazism, communism, and a couple of other isms that I can't say because this is a family channel. So Donald Trump says what he means what he says, acts on it. That's why we voted for him. We voted for someone who was not a career politician, not an establishment guy. That's what we love about Trump. And that's why he will get reelected. Now, Bill Maher tried to make the point to Chris Cuomo. Now, you would think with an economy this strong, his poll numbers would even be higher. It's because the American people see through. Oh, shut up. You are such a liar and a spin doctor. And this is why Jimmy Dore is going to eat your lunch, Bill. Because you are now just pontificating and propagating the propaganda of the DNC. You're wishful pie in the sky thinking that, yeah, everybody in America hates Trump as much as I do. No, we don't. The majority of Americans like this president. We get what he's done, and it's not a tax cut for the rich, as you like to continually espouse. It was a tax cut across the board for everybody. And I'm sorry, Bill. I thought maybe you would be smart enough to figure that out, but apparently you just want to go with the worn-out Nancy Botox Pelosi, Chuck E. Cheese Schumer soundbite of tax cut for the rich, tax cut for the rich, and then to espouse Barackmas Obamamus was scandal-free. May I remind you about Benghazi? Oh, I know, you said that was a nothing burger. Really? 4 dead Americans? Because Hillary would not authorize military intervention to protect the consulate when it was being attacked? Because it was right in the middle of a political campaign, and Barack Obama did not want to be perceived as stirring up and having problems with ISIS and our embassies and emissaries in the Middle East. He was projecting on the campaign trail, if you remember, as he was running against Mitt Romney, that he had ISIS on the run, he had them contained, and there were no problems in the Middle East. It was peace, and it was just a little speed bump, and that was all it was. Hillary drew down the security at our Middle East embassies near the anniversary of 9/11 because she did not want to provoke the peace-loving, sweet Muslims who, with their 4th century barbaric thinking, want to cut your head off because you're an infidel. We can't possibly offend these people. You can offend me and you, listen to our cell phone calls, monitor our emails. That's all okay. Right, Jimmy Comey? The real corruption, the real collusion began when George Bush enacted the Patriot Act and Barack Obama turned our own intelligence agencies against American private citizens. What happened under Obama is worse than your worst nightmare, than what, J. Edgar Hoover did when he spied and wiretapped everybody he didn't like when he ran the FBI. So don't tell me, don't lecture me, Bill Maher, that somehow Barack Obama was scandal-free. But you said it yourself. It was important. That's why you gave him $1 million. Like somebody to look into campaign federal financing there. You gave Barack Obama $1 million because it was important, as the first African-American president, he be given a second term, and it had to be successful. And it was, really. We had a miserable economy, and no, to my son who may be watching this video, it was not trending back toward jobs and recovery when Trump took office. That's a lie. That's fake news. It was Donald Trump with the tax cut and the complete, absolutely, with the stroke of a pen, undoing every single one of Barack Obama's executive orders and regulations that he put on everything from business to oil to everything. Boom! Immediately, that economy began to roar. Jobs became rolling back, and Trump, being his John Wayne self and threatening American businesses, you better start bringing your manufacturing back here, or we don't care if your headquarters is in New York City, if you're making it in Taiwan, if you're making it in Mexico, if you want to sell it here, I will slap you with a tariff. Boom! That's leadership. That's what America wanted. That's what they got in Donald Trump. Not Beto O'Rourke, the Irish Latino, sitting in a barber's chair, getting his hair cut. What's his next vlog? Sitting in the dentist's office, getting his teeth cleaned? Really? Going on The View and apologizing? I'm sorry that I'm white and I have privilege. Oh, that's going to make Putin shake in his boots. The libloons continue not to get it, which is good for us, because I haven't figured out how to win yet. It's bad for us the day they do kind of put it together and they get their liberal lunacy through. Well, that said, that is a wrap for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Please continue to share these videos. Share them everywhere. Just copy and paste the URL for this video. If you're a member of a Trump blog somewhere or one of the Trump Facebook pages, stick it there. Get the word out about this channel and what we do here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. I do read them. I don't always respond to them, but I do read them, and I thank you for subscribing. If you have not done so, please do so. Smack the bell so that you get the notification of my next rant.